see everybody here. We've got just a couple participants. Ladies, please feel free to stop and unmute at any point and ask questions. Okay, this is just going to be kind of a brief, quick little discovery call of our RSP fast tracking tool. I know Andy's on the call and she's already a current client and participant of our RSP fast tracking tool. So she's here to see some of those updates. But if either of you have questions, drop it in the chat. Sue here is my co-part today, and she's going to be helping me out by reading the chat. So if you don't want to unmute, don't feel the pressure to, but please feel free to ask any questions if you want to see anything up close. But we're going to be just taking a little deep dive into our RSP fast tracking tool and seeing if it is a good fit for you in your district to help you through this RSP process. So we actually launched this product last year. It was the thing that really kind of took me into this new role as the lead literacy consultant for Step Up. And I developed this product in the field when I was working at Pleasant Hope Elementary, trying to navigate the world of RSPs. I was a Title I reading teacher, and my counterpart and I were really living that 2023 of how are we going to navigate this RSP process and what are we going to do to make this the most effective we can for our students and our staff. So we really, we started our work with Step Up that year and really started aligning all of our things to our standards and really knowing what we were teaching kids. And through that process, we realized how many gaps our resources were leaving in between grade levels and how many reading standards we were leaving out of our teaching, and why our kids were really struggling in some of these areas of reading. It became really apparent that when we started writing goals, we wanted to reference those standards and come back to that. So we developed this tool to help you write RSP goals based on our standards. So standards-based RSP goals, and just trying to align that how we teach of letters with the what we're supposed to be teaching our kids, those Missouri Learning Standards. So this product really kind of combines those two. And we're going to go through and show you how it works and what it looks like, and just kind of show you some of the new updates we've made to it as well this year. So kind of the why, I already stated some of this, but some of that why behind our tracking tool is to help maximize teaching and intervention time. If you've written these plans or have been a part of this, you know how long it can take, especially if you've got multiple students and grade levels on plans. So it's really trying to maximize that time face-to-face with our students versus all the paperwork. We really wanted some consistency among our teachers. Not all teachers have the same experience. Not all teachers have the same ability when it comes to goal writing and that knowledge and for how. And so we wanted to make sure that what we were sending home was the same across the board. We know how many of our students, our siblings, probably have plans, and we wanted that to look the same going home. If a fifth grade student with an RSP had a plan going home, we wanted it to look the same as their first grade sibling going home, so parents weren't confused. We wanted it to be a resource for all teachers and interventionists, and something to be an easy communication tool between all those stakeholders. We wanted people to be able, who needed the access to these plans, having that access and making it quick and efficient. So here's just some things on what the RSP tool can't do. So we'll there, because sometimes that's kind of the oh no, how you have this idea of what it can do, but we're going to start with what it can't do. This tool cannot read your assessment data. So we know all these foundational reading assessments we have to give students at the beginning of the year. It can't read that data. You as a practitioner and as a district have to be able to identify the students that need an RSP based on those results that your vendors give you for those assessment data for that assessment data that you receive at the beginning and end of year. It can't determine who needs an RSP. Again, you'll use your assessment data and those resources that your assessment vendors provide to help determine who needs one, and it can't replace your knowledge of your students. We found a lot of students who maybe didn't actually qualify based on numbers for our a foundational assessment tool last year really needed a plan. So you just kind of have to know your kiddos, and you know what areas they need on, and you're listening to them read to be able to identify and utilize this tool to the best that it can be used. So here are the things that this tool can do. It's going to help bring a focus to the Missouri Priority Standards and the connection to the 5 pillars of reading, and how so many of us have went through letters or are going through letters. And a big thing I get from my teachers is, what do I do now? I've got all this letters knowledge, but how do I apply that into my classroom? And so we're trying to help your teachers realize your Missouri learning standards are the what, and those 5 pillars of reading and all those things we learned from letters, those are the how and the best practices for teaching those things to your students. So it also is going to empower your teachers with that ability to provide high quality reading instruction. We've linked all of the goals, our goal bank and interventions, to our MAT tools, which are a really great tool for your teachers to have that clarity of what the state's expecting of mastery, or for teachers who haven't had the chance to go through letters, or anybody that might be providing intervention. It's just going to give an even playing field to whoever is working with your students to give them the ideas necessary for them to be able to help provide a quality intervention. It's going to bring clarity and continuity among your staff and stakeholders and really help take that guesswork out of, what am I supposed to put on this RSP? That was the big one when we first started, was what in the world are these supposed to look like, sound like? How am I supposed to communicate? And so we're really hoping that that can alleviate some of that difficulty. So just some of the updates, if you're a current user of our tool or a current client, just some of the updates we've made throughout the year based on feedback are, we've created a more streamlined layout, trying to make the info easy to read and track. We've developed customizable drop downs for all those parts that may be customizable to your district, so that it's easy to fix and update and add things based on the needs of your school. We've added goals and proficiency templates for those supporting standards. So we really focused heavy on priority, and I'll kind of get into that when I show you the tool. But we went ahead and added a lot of supporting standards that fit in with some of those 5 pillars of reading and how it can support those areas of your students' learning, and added proficiency templates for those. And then we've also organized the goal banks a little differently this go around, and we organized them by the 5 pillars of reading, and then I added a plus. We also added orthography and syntax. Those are not part of the pillars necessarily, they're found within them. And they're also not a qualifier for RSPs, but they're listed in some of those essential skills within the documents that the state provides for the RSP guidance. And so I wanted to add those because we've had a lot of clients looking for some of those skills and standards. And so we've just added those sections. So supporting your tool, things you can get if you get this tool are our training sessions. I provide a lot of back to school training sessions to meet with you and whoever's in charge of writing your plans, and just kind of walking them through what that looks like, helping you set folders up and getting all that prepped. So you've got lots of support in that area. There's guided support videos we've created that you can share with your teachers, your interventionists, anybody that you work with. We've got lots of those built up and banked. And then you have the option to add on an RSP virtual cohort. We just completed our first one today, actually. We meet 4 to 5 times a year, and it's just kind of a check-in throughout the year to give you an extra level of support of teachers who are living this with you, interventionists, principals, whoever's working and writing these, and just a space for us to ask questions and get some ideas and feed off one another, and just make sure we're keeping on track with all those dates and deadlines. And I try to update with any changes that are happening. We know how frequently changes have been happening with these, and there's more to come. And so we just kind of utilize that space for that. All right, we're going to hop into the demo so you can actually see the tool in action. I'm going to just close out of that. So we'll provide you with a shared folder between us and you. And within that folder, you're going to have 3 documents. You're going to have this master RSP. This is our core data tracker. And I'll start here. We know how vital it is. And this was one of the things we really struggled with our first year of implementing RSPs, was how do we get this information to the right people when they need to report for core data? Because it's not always the same people. So we've developed a tool or a section in this Google Sheet for you to be able to have your February reporting cycle with your grade level class, where you can add students' names, And then these drop downs are all the things that you have to actually report on. So here's the section: no RSP, received initial, updated existing, exited, etc. And then the second part is that primary intervention that they're going to have to report. And then the last here down below is that primary support. So what's their support? So this is everything they have to report for February reporting cycle. It's just nice to be able to have that there and share that with your core data person, especially for our June reporting cycle when everybody's out of the building and they're stuck working on these reports. But all of that, all these drop downs then have that ability to tell them what it is they need to report for June cycle. So a lot of our clients currently this year are just putting their students that have an RSP, they're marking everybody no, and then their core data person's going through and looking at this list and updating them for that student in particular, and making sure that they're marking everything they need to for both of those reporting cycles. So that's that core data info. The next thing I'll show you is the goal bank. So this tab, or this Google Sheet, is going to contain just a start page where they can start. What documents do you need? How do we identify our students? Looking at your assessment. And once you have that determined, one of the things we added here is our vertical progressions. It's really important we know to really pinpoint where our students are on that reading continuum. So we've developed a graphic that kind of goes along with the build of that reading continuum and where we might find students at. Sometimes it's really hard to know based on just that foundational assessment. We've got to give some other assessments along with it. We've got to give some diagnostics, some spelling things or screeners that we know we want to give, listen to our kids read to really pinpoint where is their barrier and where is their gaps in their reading knowledge. And so if we know that they're qualifying based on their foundational assessment in phonics, maybe we need to go back to phonemic awareness and see what are some other things that they are or aren't doing. So it's really nice once we pinpoint, we can come over to this chart here, and it's going to take you to our vertical progressions, which show you exactly how these standards produce and develop starting from kindergarten as high as they'll go. We know that phonemic awareness only technically has first and kindergarten standards. It doesn't develop past that. So we'll show you kind of our, not workaround, but what we've added for teachers there. But it's just really nice for teachers to be able to come here and see what standards do my kids have mastered. So if we're a third grade student showing first grade reading level, well, I know my kids can decode by letter sound, but we're really struggling with that differentiation between short and long. So maybe this is where I start. And then we can keep going down that standard continuum, showing that progression of what are all the things I need to do once I have that first thing mastered. This is really crucial for our upper level teachers, our third and fourth grade, fifth grade teachers who have never taught foundational reading. They may not know what they need to teach. And that's a really hard adjustment when you're teaching students what they're learning from their reading to how to actually read. So that's been kind of a barrier for some of our smaller districts. And so this tool and section of our tool is really helpful for that. The next part I'll show you is just our goal bank. So how we've divided these up is just by those pillars of reading. And then we've also added syntax and orthography. But we've started at the top with, you've got your headers here kind of showing teachers and whoever's working with this what each thing is. So our blue are those developmental expectations. So they're not technically a standard, but we know developmentally that they're really important to build on phonemic awareness. Our white bars are supporting standards, and then those yellow are the designated priority standards for the state. So we could just go down through here. The middle is an editable goal. You can copy and paste these to our template, which I'll show you here in just a second, but you can also edit these. You will have access to edit and adjust anything that's on these to work best for your district. But these are just here as a nice starting point for your teachers to help pull and copy and paste, just to go and give them a starting point for a goal based on these standards if their students are struggling. I'm going to go to phonics. We'll scroll down here. So if we've determined that a student needs to work on combining sounds from letters and common spelling patterns to decode words, you can click on the standard or this intervention plan, and it's going to take you to our MAT tool. This is a proficiency scale that is going to be really, really wonderful to help bring clarity to your teachers about what's expected of mastery at these levels. So our 4.0 is a grade level above. Our 3.0, that's what we're expecting mastery at that grade level. And then we've got our 2.0. So if we're not quite here yet, we can look to this 2.0 to know where I need to scaffold. That's what's all going to be on that right side, is all these scaffolding ideas, things we can be asking our students, quizzes we could give them, questions we should be asking them to know if they've got that standard mastered. And then continuing there on the left side is you're going to have different videos and activities and things that you can do. Here's an example of a word sort that you could be doing in small group to help boost your students' ability within that standard. So it's just really nice to have for your teachers who maybe don't have something particular for intervention. If they need some ideas, this is going to be a great resource for them to come to. And then attached to our edible goal is our student scale, which is just going to be a really great resource for you if you've got students who are goal tracking, and or you've got teachers who are trying to track what is it that students are mastering throughout their time working in small group. These are great to print and check off. These are great to show to parents, hey, this is why they are where they are, because maybe we're not combining letters and sounds very well. And so, but they can understand what a syllable is. They might be able to identify that initial, medial, and end, but we're still really struggling with identifying letters to their corresponding sounds. It's just a great talking point to give to parents when you're working in conferences, or even when you're writing their plans. That's going to give you a good point of reference to help parents understand where their students are on that reading continuum. All right. So again, we've got those. Orthography and syntax, I've had some questions about those. These are not technically something you would report or qualifying areas to report, but I had a lot of teachers this year reach out to me and say, hey, I've got kindergartners. Their only qualifying area is phonemic awareness, but gosh, they don't know their letters and sounds. What do I do? So we developed this orthography section specifically for that, because it really falls into some of that print awareness that we know is so crucial for students understanding. And so our recommendation is you focus on phonemic awareness, but we've got to pull in and hit kids where they are, right? We need to know exactly where they're at and pushing them forward. So we've developed even more goals surrounding those standards that we know students have to have mastered to be able to really be effective readers. So just know that if you're coming back and looking at the tool, you're going to see a lot of standards added in this area, as well as syntax, how our language is structured. We know how much language is an important piece to that being able to read. So we've added that in there too for you to be able to help best support even your lowest readers and try and find exactly where their gaps are in their reading ability. But they've got all of those areas there. And like I said, it's grouped. It's still grouped by grade level. You're just going to scroll down to see that progression of the standards throughout. So just know that instead of going from first grade to second grade, you can just scroll down now through vocabulary and see what are the next vocabulary standards I need to be hitting with my students. We've just got a couple here. Sue, is there anything in the chat?
No, there's not. Not right now.
That's
Any
perfect.
questions though
Yeah,
from
is there any
anyone or
questions?
comments at this point?
I don't. I was familiar with your map book, and so I was just, wanting more information about how this all went together. So I don't have any questions at this time. I'm just, taking it all in. I know that I will have questions later.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can always schedule another call too when you have something more specific, or you can always email me and I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of our demo there. Oh, actually, you know what? It's not. I'm going to show you the plan really quick. That was the thing I didn't quite show you. So the last thing within that folder that you would receive is this edible template. Now we have some people that use our template. We have some people that don't use the template. It's really however you want. Some people have their own already that they've developed and are working towards or working with. And so they're just using that goal bank to help them write. But we took a lot of feedback and tried to make our template a little bit more streamlined than it was. There's so much information you have to report for an RSP. So anything you see here again is edible. We tried to put in brackets things that you would put that's particular to your school district, that you would want to make sure you add and edit. But all of these gray shaded bars here, they're conditional formatted to give you an idea of, hey, something needs to go here. So anytime that they're empty, they're going to be shaded gray, just to give you that clue. Hey, I probably should have something here. We've added sections like the dyslexia component. What did they screen? At risk, not at risk? We know how important it is to keep track of that. A lot of schools are utilizing behavior support, and we want to keep track of, are these students on tier 2 or tier 3 behavior support systems? And then IEP was a big one. We always want to mark if they've got an IEP. We don't have to write them a plan, but we are still required to report them. And it's important that we know if their IEP is in reading, that their goals match what their foundational reading assessment is showing that they need goal areas in. And if it's not in math, they still need an RSP, or if it's not in reading, excuse me, if they have an IEP in math but not reading, we want to make sure that they have got an RSP. So you've got those here marked. We also know we've got students that end up qualifying mid-year, so that's now an option that you can mark just to keep track of that data for your purposes. The next section here is the intervention plan. These are all things that you might be doing with your students. Again, these are all customizable. You can change these, the type of tutoring support that they might receive. You would choose the frequency, the duration, who is providing that, another customizable drop down that you're able to click and change to customize who might be working with your students throughout the school year. And then of course that date of their initial RSP, and then when they're exiting, there's a section for that as well. Then we move on down to where you're going to record all of your foundational reading assessment data. There's a section for this reading growth. So talking about, what is a typical growth expectation in their foundational reading assessments, and then what would a stretch growth be? And then what is their actual growth? And just making sure we're maintaining and keeping track of some of those things, and making sure that they are making growth towards their reading progress goal. This section here isn't necessarily something that is required, and it's something you could take off. We've got some schools that don't necessarily utilize this piece, and they just take it off of there and leave these growth targets or their goals written as needed. So just know that, again, these are customizable to you. This section is great. It's revised as needed. So you start with their goal, and once they meet their goal, you might move on to the next one. These drop downs are all of those areas that you're going to focus with them on. The next section down is just that acknowledgement and communication. Just a little blurb here, again, that's customizable to you, just to let you know that parents have read their plan. They know what's at risk when we're talking about their reading deficiencies, and the things that you're doing to help support them. A little blurb about summer school, and knowing that that is an important part of them coming through and making those gains is attending summer school. The next part down is just this communication piece. Again, you've got those customizable drop downs, just reminding teachers of things that they should be sending home when you're sending home, just to keep track of that data. We know we have to send home, I think, things 4 times a year. There are more than those here. So again, you could delete what you didn't need, but just making sure you've got enough to get through your school year. And then the next piece here is that progress monitoring, where you can, again, copy and paste your goal. And I'll show you an example of that here in just a second. But you can copy and paste those goals and interventions to have those links, tell what progress cycle you're working through, and then what your goal growth target focus is for that time, and lots of places for all of your scores and things that you're keeping track of. Did they meet their goal? And then of course, just a section for those notes for the teacher and their week-to-week progress on if they're making progress towards their intervention. And I'll show you what I mean by copying and pasting. So if we've got the goal bank and we know we have a student that's working in phonics, we try to make this as easy as possible. So if they've narrowed down, again, this letters and common spelling, that's where we want to start with students. You can highlight both sections, which is really great. Copy, and then we'll come up here to our goal. And then we're going to paste. So it's going to paste it right over. Some of these we'll work through making sure that it does it seamlessly, where it's going to copy and paste it all for you. and just write through there and you don't have to merge anything. But how nice for teachers to be able to just copy and paste once and have both of their things where they need to be. But then they can just copy these again when they want to put it down here for our goal and our intervention for our progress monitoring, and it's all ready to go. So it's just a nice way to keep things easy, keep our language the same and consistent, anything like that that we can do to help have teachers have that clarity. The nice thing is their links come along with them. So when they're looking at their intervention progress, they don't have to go back to the goals page. They can just come to the student's plan and be able to pull up anything that they need from their MAT tools right there and have it with them right there. All right. Was there any questions about the template? Again, it's editable, so just kind of wanted to show you some of the updates that we had there on those. Let's see.
I don't have any questions. I really appreciate the piece for the core data. I think it would make my data person very, very happy. And so we use Infinite Campus.
Mhm.
And so I think this would, just lend itself well. I'm going to go over it. I have a few people I want to talk some things through with. I may have questions. And would it be possible if next week is our last week of school?
Yeah.
Would it be possible maybe if the following week, I don't know what your schedule is, if we did just a quick Zoom, and maybe I can have some of the other participants on with us, and they can, we can answer, you can answer any questions we might have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you just send me your schedule. I can shoot you my email. Actually, I'll drop it in the chat here for you, and you can just shoot me an email with some good times for you guys, and then we'll set something up.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, got that in there. Let's see. So we're really kind of at the end to the demo. I just wanted to show you a couple more things that we offer and just remind you of that why, just maximizing teaching intervention time, getting that consistency. And then if you're utilizing our MAT tools, this is just a great way to show teachers how it incorporates into all areas. Sometimes we have these great tools and we don't know how to use them in practice. And that's one of the things I love about this is it really brings teachers into that. Let me pull up that MAT tool and make sure I know what's going on in this reading area and what that looks like. Some other things to just bring to your attention. You can visit our website, and I'll Sue, do you care to drop that in the chat just to the our reading site? Let me move this down. But on our reading site, we've got our fast tracking tool. There's a quick little video. I need to update it with our updates. And sorry if my video's paused. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, good deal. We have got on this fast tracking tool page just a quick little video about it, talking about our navigator. So our navigator is a document we developed that shows the process of how we developed our standards-based RSP goals, and there's some printable calendars in there to keep you on track for dates and things like that. And we try to update it as regularly as possible to make sure that it matches everything that the state is saying is provided for you. Sometimes it's nice to have something to print out and have all the dates right there for you, but you can click on that link there for that navigator. It'll ask for your email, but it'll send you the navigator for free. And then we also have got a podcast episode talking about it. But the other thing we have that we're still growing is this growing readers website that you can click on. This is a great resource for your teachers and for your parents even to come. But we've got different sections. There's the stages of reading that kind of take you to some different documents and resources and websites that kind of go over those developmental stages of reading for parents. Go back to this route to reading, typical reading development, anything that a parent might be interested in and knowing where their students are. There's some things there about the science of reading, what reading success plans are. This is a great spot for parents if you're trying to explain to them what is a reading success plan, What are the things I can do if my student comes home with a plan and qualifies in vocabulary? They can click on this, what can I do to help? And it's going to take them to some different resources and things that they could utilize at home to be able to help. This is great for your teachers too. If they're thinking, what am I supposed to send home to my kids and my parents? They can click on these and send these resources home to satisfy some of those things for those RSP requirements. Go back, maybe. There we go. And then there's a whole section too that we're building up with reading activities, but these are great things teachers can utilize in their small group. Really Great Reading has some awesome letter tiles. Read, Write, Think has got some great decodables. And there's a list of decodables there too for teachers. Sometimes those are hard to come by and finding some good quality ones, but these are great resources again for parents and for teachers alike. So that's all found just on our RSP site through our Step Up website. So you can click products to get there and just find the RSP fast tracking tool, and it's there for you all down in there. So we've got lots of other free resources too, but there's a way to contact me. Also, if you're watching this replay and want to know more or want to set up a demo, you can just email me and let me know. But that's really the end of our call. So just make sure that you know how to get there, how to get to our website. And my name is Jessica Gray. And if you need anything else, you just feel free to contact me and let me know. I'd be happy to set up a call.
Okay, thank you so much,
You're
Jessica and Drew.
welcome.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks
You
for
too.
joining.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.